Hello everyone, Fantasy Girl here, and let me just say that I was wanting to do this video for a while. I was so excited, especially after patch 5.3 when it came out. I didn't really feel right putting it out right after that so suddenly, after everything that happened in the closing of Shadowbringers. But now with patch 5.4 out, and we're getting closer to the upcoming patch of 5.5 and the later expansion of 6.0, don't have too much more information about that, but we should be learning some more information very soon with the upcoming showcase for 14, which is coming out on February 5th. So in any case, I felt that now was a good time to really be able to sit down and kind of look at our list of enemies going on right now, particularly with the Ascians. So, I mean, I loved everything that they did with Shadowbringers in terms of the Ascians. I love how we got to learn so much more about them, learn more about their motivations, why they're doing all this, and they gave us probably one of the best villains that we've had so far in the form of Emet-Selch. I loved him. He was amazing. And Elidibus I thought was really good too. I mean, I do think that they kind of rushed him a little bit. I felt like we could have maybe got some more character development from him. But what can you do? But yeah, now that we actually have some time to kind of to ourselves, to kind of relax, really think about where we're going to go from this point on, especially after learning everything about Van Daniel right now. We still don't know much about him though, to be honest, but after learning that he's definitely planning something, especially with his new pet of Lunar Bahamut, I feel that now is a good time to really sit down and think about how many Ascians that we have left. So this here is just going to be a compilation of the Ascians, all the known Ascians anyway, that we have either defeated or have yet to face, and maybe see if we can kind of pinpoint exactly how many Ascians are left. So this may not be 100% accurate. These are just a lot of interpretations and like a lot of circumstances, so please take from it what you can and let me know what you think. So first of all, what is an Ascian? I'm just going to cover that very basic very quickly, but when we are first introduced to the idea of the Ascians, they're referred to as the Paragons, or the Bringers of Chaos. And they're the ones who have been teaching the beast tribes of Eorzea how to summon primals from ether. And according to legend, the Ascians arrive in times of need to lead those in the darkness to the light of the primals. But the truth of the matter is, the Ascians are the remnants of an ancient race who lived on the planet before it was sundered. Now, it has been said that there were many different cities that spread across this ancient world. However, Amarot definitely seemed to have been the most powerful, or at least the most knowledgeable, the biggest. It kind of reminded me a little bit of Charlian, to be honest. Like, they were seekers of knowledge, they loved to study, they loved to absorb the world, they loved to experiment, but they did love the world. They loved the planet that they were living on, and they saw themselves as the caretakers. They were the ones who had to take care of the planet because it was their home, and so they had to do whatever it took to protect it. And apparently they did this job for eons. And pretty much everyone in the city was living nigh immortal. They lived in these beautiful cities that seem to stretch out like all across this planet, and everything, according to Emet-Selch anyway, was perfect. Like, pretty much everyone was living in peace. There was no fighting, no disagreements. Everyone had homes and food and pretty much everything that they wanted. And any kind of fights were short-lived and could be solved easily by discussion and just compromise and working things out. So that was kind of the world that everyone lived in way back then. However, something happened like shortly before the sundering. Nobody knows exactly what it is. At least we weren't given a real clear explanation of what caused the final days, but something. They say that some kind of horrific sound came from deep within the earth. The sound caused so much terror that the people of Amarot, who had tremendous power in creation, who could pretty much create whatever they wanted clean out of thin air so long as they could hold on to an idea of it, apparently this sound gave rise to their innermost fears and caused these horrible monsters to start appearing and attacking them, and that eventually led to the final days. That almost led to their complete destruction. It seemed that the final days were spreading all over the planet and basically destroying everything, including wiping out all of the cities until pretty much only Amarot was left. Now, the Convocation knew about this. They were planning like some way to kind of halt it, to figure out what was going on, and eventually they were able to summon Zodiark, the Convocation of 14, who were the leaders of Amarot, just as whatever this terrible disaster came swooping in and started laying waste to their city. They enacted their plan to summon a god to protect them. And so I don't really know exactly how he did it, only that he did end up putting a stop to it. However, that ended up sucking almost all of the planet dry, especially with the people of Amarot, because they had to sacrifice at least half of their number in order to summon him. So, after seeing like this dead, decayed world that was left, the half of Amarot that still survived, and assuming those who survived the final days as well, half of the remaining number sacrificed themselves again to Zodiark, who in turn was able to bring life back into the planet, including, like, I'm guessing, like trees, flowers, animals, and maybe like lesser humans or like lesser beings that the Amarots considered to be really no more different than animals themselves, I'm guessing. They saw like these new people as inferior beings, like somebody that's really was not worth sacrificing their own members for. So it was decided that they would raise enough of these lesser beings to sacrifice to Zodiark again and have him resurrect all those first beings who were sacrificed to begin with. And then they would go on protecting the planet from there. However, a fraction of Amarot did not agree with this. They felt that enough was sacrificed to Zodiark and that it doesn't matter how many will sacrifice to them, he's never going to be satisfied. So they kind of broke off from the rest of Amarot, and they were being led by another individual by the name of Vina. In the end, they felt that Zodiark was too powerful, too dangerous. They needed to have some kind of way to control him just in case he ended up, I don't know, running rampant and became more of a threat than the final days were. And so they summoned Hydaelyn to serve as his shackles. Anyway, long story short, Hydaelyn and Zodiark battled, and it ended with Hydaelyn smacking down Zodiark so hard that she caused the sundering. Basically, including the source, there were 13 perfect reflections of that original source, and everyone and everything on it was also sundered into 14 identical pieces. So basically what she did was she ended up creating like 13 other parallel universes with that one final attack. Only 3 Ascians, like 3 Amarodians, were able to escape the sundering with their souls still intact, and they're known as the Unsundered. And they labor to reunite the dimensions to revive Zodiark and restore their lost civilization. Because in their eyes, this whole world is completely unnatural. None of this should have happened. In their eyes, to those who have known perfect paradise, this is just a pale reflection. Like, this is nothing. Like, this is just like a shadow, like pitiful remains of what the world could have been. Now, it is possible to rejoin these separate worlds back into the original source. Only problem is it involves the ultimate destruction of these parallel reflections and all life that are on those. Basically, all that ether is being sucked back into the source and rejoined together with like everything else there. However, that is too much for only 3 people to do. So the Unsundered raise individual fragments of the souls of their ancient colleagues into the Ascians to help them. Now, the Ascians are a very small organization, basically. I don't think that there would be more than 24 people, 24 at most, is what I think so. But even with that few number of people, there's still a hierarchy. And there's basically 3 different ranks that you can be in. You have the Unsundered, and they are pretty much the de facto leaders. They're the head honchos, the most powerful. It's Lahabrea, Emet-Selch, and Elidibus. Now, like I said, they are the most powerful Ascians, and it seems like they're the only ones who actually have powers to be able to recruit others into their group. They were the ones who were able to somehow escape this sundering. They were also the ones who ended up creating these special crystals. These crystals contain the memories of the other Ascians, like their other colleagues. So all they would need to do is find the fragmented souls of their colleagues and give them back their memories. And that is what raises them up to the rank of an Ascian. Those beings are known as the Overlords. So their souls belong to the remaining sundered members of the Convocation of 14. And it's also important to know that all members of the Convocation, they're referred to by their titles rather than their true names. Their titles are based on the names of the Scions of Light from Ivalice, while their real names seem to be based off the idea of Greek gods, such as how we have Hades, Gaia, and Artemis so far. Now, both the Unsundered and the other Overlords, they're the ones who have the red mask, so they're easy to tell apart. And finally, for the third and I guess either the biggest rank or the weakest rank is the Lesser Ascians. They're the ones with the black mask. They are the weakest and generally unnamed. They're only referred to by their rank. And so they're kind of the gruntmen. Like, they're kind of like the servants to the Overlords and everything. So they're really not seen as too much of a threat. They do definitely have some powers, but nothing compared to like the Overlords or anything. It is possible to kill them and be done with those right away. Now, the Ascians, at least particularly the Overlords and the Unsundered, they are seen as immortal beings. They have complete mastery over a power that we know as the Echo. So not only are they able to traverse the life stream instead of dissipating, which is normally what happens when a person dies in this world, they are able to retreat there, maybe rest up, and then come right back out into the world to cause more mayhem. They're also able to travel at will between all the other shards. And so they can come and go whenever that they want. And now the Overlords, they can possess living beings, shape the body to suit their needs, and basically walk around like ordinary people wherever they want to. Whereas the Lesser Ascians, they have to use the bodies of the deceased, and they can't return to the Rift if they're slain. So this really kind of shows like how different in power that they are. Granted, while the Unsundered are definitely the most powerful, definitely the biggest threat, the Overlords are still dangerous in their own right. So, as for the members themselves, we mostly have the Convocation of 14 and we have all their underlings. I'm not really going to count the underlings for this. We haven't had to deal with them for a while now, and even if we do deal with them, they don't seem to be particularly a big threat anymore. I mean, we were able to take them down like way back in A Realm Reborn when we were first starting off, and so we were able to take down like one of the Black Mass Ascians pretty easily. So what we're going to be focused on is merely the Overlords, like the main members of the Convocation. So let's start off with how many are there. So they say the Convocation of 14, so that stands to reason that there were 14 members. So I don't know if that means that there were 14 members of the Convocation, and then we had Elidibus, who seems to be their leader. So that would make around 15 members altogether. Just for the sake of this video, we'll just say that there were 14 members altogether with the Convocation. Also, this list will not be counting any kind of Ascians that were defeated and may possibly come back later on, like maybe the other Ascians or the Unsundered rose up somebody else to take the seat even after that they were killed. We're not going to be counting all of that. This is going to be us just assuming that once we take care of them, they're dead and gone, we don't need to worry about them anymore. Oh, and one more thing, before I go any further, there was one member of the Convocation, the 14th member, known as Azim. They were known as the Wanderer, the Traveler, the Shepherd of the Stars, and probably had a bunch of other titles as well, but we're not going to be counting Azim either. They were a forgotten member of the Convocation, but they were so against the idea of summoning Zodiark that they left their position, they left their seat open just before the final days reached Amarant. We really don't know too much more about Azim and what their role was during all of this, but it is heavily implied that the Warrior of Light, our character, is the current Source's incarnation of Azim. So we won't be counting Azim at all, so at the very least, there's going to be 13 main Ascians that we had to take care of. So let's start with the 3 Unsundered Ascians. We had Elidibus, who was known as the Emissary, La Habrea, who was the Speaker, and Emet-Selch had the title of the Architect. So they were the most powerful. They were the ones that we really, really needed to take care of if we wanted to avoid them ever building up their ranks again. And luckily for us, though, they're all dead right now. So La Habrea, he was the first one that was slain. He was killed by the Archbishop after he became the Primal Thornton and basically absorbed his ether after he was cut down. So it has been stated that he's dead, he's gone, we don't need to worry about him anymore. As for Elidibus and Emet-Selch, they both met their end here in Shadowbringers. Emet-Selch was slain by the Warrior of Light and Odbert after they rejoined together, and they used the combined light that they gathered from all the Light Wardens to put an end to him as well. So he died at the original ending of Shadowbringers. As for Elidibus, he also ended up meeting his end here at the end of patch 5.3 at the top of the Crystal Tower, where he tried to eliminate the Warrior of Darkness. He took on the form of a Warrior of Light to battle against them. He ended up meeting his end with them, thanks to Grahatia, who stepped in at the last moment and kind of held his soul there long enough to be able to use the Crystal Tower to be able to put a stop to him once and for all. So the 3 unsundered Ascians, as well as all the crystals, like the memory crystals used to rise up all the other members of the Convocation, are all gone. So we don't need to worry about any other Ascians being risen up thanks to that. So if we could just take care of the remaining members of the Ascians, then we're done with them. We can move on with the rest of our lives, basically, from the Ascians now that that's all been taken care of. So, yeah, the 3 unsundered are gone, so who are the ones left remaining? So, in order of what we know, Nabrialis was the first of the Overlords that we were able to slay. He tried to break into the Waking Sands and steal the staff Tupsamate. We in turn ended up using the staff against him after he was trapped inside the White Oracite, and thanks to Moonbrita, we were able to put a stop to him, so he's dead and gone. Next up we have Igeorm, who was killed several minutes before La Habrea was at the end of Heavensward. We were able to trap them inside another shard of White Oracite and slay them with Nidhogg's Eye. So she's also dead and gone. So the list is quickly going down. Next up we have both Metron and Logrith. Now, those 2 were Ascians that were originally on the first and were trying to cause a rejoining there. And just to make a very long story short, they ended up doing battle against Odbert and the other Warriors of Light. They were both struck down, and when Logrith died, she was returned to the livestream and she was eventually reborn in the form of Gaia. As for Metron, on the other hand, he was struck by a powerful burst of light from Odbert's final attack, and he ended up being transformed into the world's very first Sin Eater. So he became Eden, and was trapped kind of in Eden's core all that time. Yeah, spoiler alert. So eventually though, he does end up reaching out to the reincarnation of Gaia, and as she's growing up, he kind of messes around with her memories. He helps her powers kind of return. It seems that's the key to awakening an Ascian's powers. Basically their memories. If they can remember everything of who they were, then their powers are awakened as well. So that's kind of what he does. He kind of just erases Gaia's memories like little by little, and slowly helping her to reawaken as her old self as Logrith. Eventually though, at the end of Eden's Promise, like the final battle there, Gaia is set free from Logrith. She's free to live out the rest of her days as, I guess, pretty much human, I'm guessing. She still has her powers, so that may be something she'll have to deal with later on, but as far as we know, she's still 100% human. She's free to live out the rest of her days with Reen. I completely ship those 2. I think that they are a cute couple. As for Metron, he was eventually destroyed. His soul was eventually destroyed to a point that he was set free. So he's going to be reborn eventually. So he's going to be reincarnated. So for the time being, I don't think we need to worry about either of them anymore. I mean, Gaia's on our side now. She's not technically an Ascian at this point. And Metron is, I'm guessing, not scheduled to be reborn for at least a couple of years. There was also another Ascian that was very briefly mentioned during the Eureka questline, and that was the one known as Emeroth. So as for Emeroth, we never met them, we don't know anything about them personally, but it was suggested that they're also dead. Apparently what happened was they discovered that a very powerful primal in the form of Eureka was sealed away on the Isle of Val. Now Galath, who was Kryle's adopted grandfather, he and his friends were the ones who originally sealed Eureka up on the Isle of Val because they didn't have the powers to be able to destroy it completely. So what happened was, like, when he realized that the Ascians knew the location of Eureka, they knew how dangerous that would be, and so what they did was they had a failsafe. They set the entire isle adrift into the live stream to kind of not only destroy Eureka, but also to destroy Emeroth, who was apparently on the Isle too when it was sucked into the live stream. Now, eventually, Eureka was able to pull the Isle out of the live stream, and they appeared in the Sea of Glass, I think it was called. We do find Galuf's notes about Emeroth and everything that led up to that, and it has been suggested that Emeroth is killed. We don't know for sure yet. So it's kind of up in the air if Emeroth is still alive, like if they were able to survive that, or maybe they were eventually risen up again. We don't know. For the time being, though, I do feel safe to say that Emeroth is no longer a threat, at least for the time being. So kind of iffy on that, but we'll find out. So, just to recap. Elidibus, Lahabrea, Emet-Selch, Igeorm, Metron, Laudrif, Nabrialis. And Emeroth too, if you really want to count her. I'm not 100% sure of that yet. But 7 of them have already been dealt with. 8 if you really want to include Emeroth. But that still leaves us with 5 others. So who are they? Well, we have Pashtariot, Ultima, Fandaniel, Judalaphon, and Hamarot. So with the exception of Fandaniel, we really haven't seen any of these other Ascians. I mean, if we did, it was very briefly. I would say normally that there are about 5 of them left. However, we also need to keep in mind that Gaius has not been slacking either. He has made it his mission to go around and slay every Ascian that he's found, and he managed to kill a couple. He's killed a handful of the Black Mass Ascians, and we definitely also see him with 2 of the Overlord Red Mass. So it stands to reason that he's also found a way to deal with them. If he hasn't found a way to permanently destroy those fractions of soul, then he's at least found a way to take care of an Ascian to a point that they are maybe reincarnated later on, kind of like with Metron. Again, that's not 100% confirmed, and we don't know which of the Ascians that he's taking care of. I would say, though, that, again, like with Emeroth, it's safe to assume that at least 2 more Ascians are taken out of the picture. So if we do take that into consideration, then I would say at the minimum, we have 3 Ascians left that we have to deal with, including Fandaniel. Now, Fandaniel, we saw kind of glimpses of him here and there throughout the story of Shadowbringers, at least during the patches. So what do we know about him, other than the fact that he's completely crazy and seems to have like an unhealthy obsession with, I'm guessing with Xenos. It could be that because the body that he's using is Ashahi, who had a serious, like, notice me senpai, like, complex going on with him. So, I don't know. It could be that just the memories of that particular body that he's using. Anyway, at the end of 5.4, he introduced himself to us, which was very kind of him. So, he didn't come out and spell out exactly what his plan was, but we do have a basic idea of what he's trying to do. He came out to confess that he's trying to reenact the final days. Now, unlike the Unsundered, who were obsessed with causing the rejoining and pretty much bringing everything back to the way that it used to be, Fandaniel could not disagree with that more. Apparently, I don't know what happened with him, but he doesn't see anything good about leaving this world as it was. I mean, with the Unsundered, they did want to cause enough chaos to cause a rejoining, but they still wanted to leave something left of the world for the rest of them, like, have something left, like when Zodiark came back. Fandaniel doesn't seem to care about any of that, though. He definitely wants to just destroy everything. He said so himself. He wants to kill everyone, and he wants to die along with them. And apparently he's got a plan that's going to reenact the final days, which we don't really know yet how he's going to do it. Just that it involves the Dark Towers that he somehow created out of nowhere. He ended up summoning like this lunar Bahamut that I'm guessing he created himself out of creation magic. But it definitely looks like he's going to be playing a big role in the upcoming expansion, probably in the next patch as well. And yeah, so he's completely nuts. I know that a lot of people have been complaining about him, saying that he's just completely a madman, that he is, like, he's nothing compared to what Emet-Selch was. Emet-Selch was at least interesting. Instead, we just have, like, this homicidal maniac who just wants to kill everything and is evil for the sake of it. I personally don't see him like that. I mean, we have an immortal who wants to die. That in and of itself should be a very interesting story to see. Like, what caused this? Like, what great wrong was done to him that he wants to see everything destroyed and basically go along with it. I mean, it kind of sounds like a combination of Kefka and Kuja, like from Final Fantasy VI and IX. I mean, he definitely has more of a personality compared to Kefka, who basically doesn't see the point of living anymore and that everything will one day be destroyed anyway, so what's the point? And so it's kind of like a combination of those two villains, like inside of Fandaniel. Again, we really don't know more about his motivations or why he's doing all this, but it's hard to say for sure what's going on in his head, and I think that they do have a very specific plan for him. But that still leaves at least 2 other Ascians. So at the most, I would say we have maybe 5 or 6 Ascians left. At the least, I would say at least 3, including Fandaniel. So yeah, where does that leave us here? Well, the point is that we still have to deal with these last handful of Ascians. So long as the Ascians survive, they're still going to cause chaos. And without the Unsundered, especially with Elidibus, who seemed to have been the one who was able to kind of keep things calm and keep the others from getting too carried away, yeah, these guys have nothing left holding them back. So these guys are probably going to be even more dangerous now because they don't have, Elidibus keeping them on a short leash, telling them, no, don't do that, we need this world alive. They're not going to care anymore. They even came out and said it, that they don't seem to care about their fellows, at least with Fandaniel. He's so happy that the other Unsundered are dead and that he can do what he wants, and yeah, he's going to destroy the world if he has his way. So yeah, until we have more concrete proof of maybe who the other 2 Ascians that Gaius took care of, maybe confirm whether or not any of them have been resurrected or risen up after we defeated them, maybe find a way to take care of Zodiark too, because I don't think this whole story is going to end with Hydaelyn and Zodiark until they're both taken out. Yes, that includes Hydaelyn. So, yeah, that's the current state of the Ascians. What do you all think? I know it's a little bit long-winded. I'm sorry about that. As soon as I started talking, I couldn't bring myself to stop. But, yeah, that's the current list of all the Ascians that we currently know of so far, and just an idea of how many more are left. So what do you all think? That is basically everything we know so far about who we have to deal with left. And if you agree with my thoughts, just let me know below. If you have any suggestions to who you think that maybe the ones that Gaius took care of may have been, or why you think these certain Ascians might still be around, just drop a message down below. So until next time, everyone, thank you so much for watching. Please give me a thumbs up if you like this video, leave a comment down below, and I'll see you again next time. Bye!
Who? What are you?